I see we're dressed in all black, but we're not mourning. I mean, in the spirit of competition, the best team won yesterday, and I'm talking about
not the best team. Let's not say the best team.
The best team statistically.
No.
And on gameplay yesterday, they had more shots on goal. They dominated. They created more clear chances. So if we're being fair, they were the best team on the day. But we leave to play another day, and there goes the end of our journey in AFCON. You're welcome to Breakfast Central. It's not the end of our journey.
We're playing for third place.
Yeah, I mean, third place is the third loser, second place is the second loser.
There's
only one place that matters, and that's winners. That's why I'm a winner.
I don't agree. We are third place winners. There are people who didn't make it to this level.
No, it doesn't change anything.
Anyway, do your intro.
You're welcome to Breakfast Central on this day where Nigeria has been eliminated from, not quite eliminated, but we were not going to be playing in the finals of the African Cup of Nations. The boys gave their best. But their best was not enough, so we get back to other issues and business. I mean, it's not like we paused for that, but it was a good distraction while it lasted. I mean, united the country, gave us hope and what have you. So the boys have done their best. Let's hope they defeat the Pharaohs of Egypt on Saturday. Yes, this is Breakfast Central. You're welcome. I am Benga Aborowa to bring you all the latest information, news, insightful analysis and discussions here on Breakfast Central. So you've made a great choice by tuning in this morning.
And I am Olive Emodi. Thanking you for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central. I began the show yesterday with so much hopes, so much excitement, and I did an intro saying it's the day that Nigeria beats Morocco, because I thought that our boys would have won the game. However, we must mention that they played a good game. Unfortunately, it ended in a penalty shootout and we lost the game. But it doesn't take away from the fact that our boys played a good game and we're super proud of the Super Eagles. They've done great so far in the AFCON, and we look forward to seeing them do more. We'll be back again. And this time around, hopefully, we'll be going away with the cup, right? But we do have another game that we're looking forward to. We must mention again that Nigerians, please need to calm down. We've been seeing the trolling that you've been doing for Chukwueze, giving to Chukwueze. He's not a miracle worker, right? It's a penalty shootout, and when it comes to penalties, literally 50-50.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a way you can lose your penalty in a very... he was very casual about it.
You think he was?
Yeah, like he just strolled there, and it was no penalty.
Do you realize the amount of tension?
It was a pass and pressure.
When it's not like you were inside, Olive, they then bring you in.
He's a professional footballer.
How many minutes and they're like, okay.
The least car he drives is a BMW. He leaves football Monday to Sunday, and then you kick like that, like my grandmother.
But the thing is, at the end of the day, I will say this.
I mean, it's a game of lottery, but there's a way you can be prepared for penalty shootout.
How much more preparation could he have done for the penalty?
You will not hit.
He should do sign of the
no, you should not hit the ball. So why are people not blaming Bruno? Bruno also lost his penalty. But he took it the way penalties, they should be struck hard. Oliver, I don't think you played football as a youngster. I think you were more interested in Ludo. So when it comes to Ludo matters, as snakes and ladder, I will invite you to discuss.
Wow, I see. Shots fired.
By the way, I mean, Nigerians that are Arsenal fans can be...
I wanted to say that as well.
Can use that to compensate
themselves. Imagine being Nigerian and being a Chelsea fan. What a sad time.
People like Joe
My
Hansen.
condolences to Joe Hansen. We're wearing black on your behalf. We know that it's been a very sad night. Nigeria and Chelsea at the same time. What a huge shock and a huge blow. But the show must go on. And we're taking your comments live on YouTube. We're streaming live. News Central TV Live is where the magic is happening. Go there, drop your thoughts and comments. If you have special messages for the Super Eagles, feel free to drop them as well. And your general thoughts about the match as well. And also to Mokunye Chukwuemeka. I know Mokunye is an Arsenal fan. I think he'll use that one to console himself. The fact that Arsenal did a good job last night.
So who will you be rooting for in the finals? I mean, our West African brothers, Morocco. Senegal. For me. Are you an Egyptian mommy?
To be honest.
Why are you looking like an Egyptian mommy?
To be honest, I'm not as excited as I would have been. And I know that sounds very like unsportsmanship-like.
I mean, every one of us.
I'm not as excited about it as I would have been. I'll go about my day doing whatever I want to do.
But
I'm not going to cover.
Who would you want to win?
I mean, Maybe Senegal, maybe, because I've always wanted to visit.
Yeah.
Not because of anything. This is not anything. I've always wanted to visit the country, and I met this really lovely designer from the country earlier in the year at an ECOWAS gathering, and I look forward to it.
So the host nation that put millions of dollars to host and, welcomed everyone.
They want us.
Okay.
On the flip side, they supported us a lot at our last win. So maybe I should give them my support.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm for nobody and I'm for everybody. Let's move into the wake-up conversations this morning. From one very interesting story to another very interesting story. The United States has announced an indefinite pause in immigrant visa processing for nationals of 75 countries, including Nigeria, Somalia, Russia, Iran. Oh, with what's happening in Iran, really sad. Afghanistan and Brazil from January 21, 2026, according to U.S. officials who say the decision is part of a broader effort by Washington to tighten immigration controls and strengthen applicant screening. The State Department has directed U.S. embassies and consulates worldwide to halt the issuance of new immigrant visas for affected countries while authorities reassess vetting procedures aimed at identifying applicants considered likely to rely on public assistance. A move the government says is designed to protect its welfare system, stressing, however, that the suspension applies only to immigrant visas and does not affect tourist, business, or student travel, and will remain in force until the review process is completed. So, if you are going to visit the U.S. as a Nigerian for tourism purposes, this does not affect you. This is if you were moving, if you were migrating to the United States of America. So if you're going as a tourist, just have your bond money in your hand.
$15,000.
Yes, and have your documents and you're good to go. That doesn't affect you. But nothing comes as a surprise to me anymore.
I mean, every other
US.
day.
It feels like there's a new announcement.
President Donald Trump is appealing to his base. Anything that will make them feel, he's tightening borders and is reducing immigration is what appeals to him. I don't think there's much in this, in the sense that not many people are looking to migrate.
No.
Either.
No, there are people that are looking to migrate.
Okay, so it would affect them.
Yes, it will affect them because it feels. We know that not just in Nigeria, in many of all these other countries, people are constantly looking forward to moving to other countries, and particularly the U.S. that has been looked at as a beacon of some
as a land of milk and honey.
Exactly. So the U.S., Canada, Australia, the U.S. in particular. So I can understand why this might be crushing for many people. Some people have built careers from advising people on the best immigration pathways. So initially it was student visas. People go for, a number of.
How about marriage?
Well, so I don't know how that will work now, but I don't think that's advisable.
Yeah, I'm not sure it would affect it, but
I don't know if it's advisable at this point because
as long as Donald Trump is president, he's shown it clearly, and then by giving a $15,000 bond that immigrants are not welcome, visitors are not welcome, and it's the irony is the United States is one of the 3 countries that will be co-hosting the World Cup. It's called a World Cup.
I've seen a number of people cancelling their World
people
Cup
are cancelling
purchases.
their tickets because it's not even, they're looking at safety in the United States because you have immigration, customs, enforcement, ICE, picking up people. ICE murdered a U.S. citizen the other day, so they're not, they're pretty scared.
Woman.
Yeah, it's very, very terrible situation. So
really scared.
Their country, their rules, so we just have to live, the rest of the world will live with this present day reality that shows that the United States rather is not welcoming of visitors. Well,
at the end of the day, I think what this is again for us is a wake-up call for everyone to really fix their home base. If every country was fixing, every country's government was as proactive in fixing their country, as in protecting their country as fiercely as some would interpret what Donald Trump's actions have meant, then that would have been a great idea. In Nigeria, for example, many of the people who have migrated from Nigeria to America, to Canada, all these other countries, aren't necessarily migrating because they enjoy unpredictable weather, because they enjoy winter, like really intense winter conditions, but it's because they want a better quality of life. It's why doctors would leave Nigeria and go to these countries where they're working in extreme weather conditions, where there are certain things that are uncertain, and where some of them even have to take
Zero
meager
family
salaries.
ties and friends, yes.
For the first few months. No, people don't talk much, well, some people do, about the depression that comes with relocating abroad. There's a huge depression a number of them have to deal with. When they start to share their story about the first few months, the very uncomfortable weather conditions they have to deal with.
The culture shock.
The culture shock, the feeling
The
disconnected
disconnect
from family.
Yeah.
It's why
It's one of the
Nollywood
prices
on
we're
YouTube
paying,
has picked
yeah.
up because Nigerians in the diaspora want to watch, they want to feel connected to home because these are the things that remind them of home. So we need to fix our country, and when we do, you see that more people will actually come back. There are people who just want to go there until they feel like they can find some stability. And once things start to look...
And it'll be nice. I think it was one of these AES states that reciprocated the United States decision to ban visas from members of their country, and they did the same.
Yeah,
so
aura for aura.
If you have the energy to, I would advise you to. So they can also fill it if it's not going to affect you adversely. In diplomacy, it's called the principle of reciprocity.
Reciprocity, yes. All right, let's move now to our next story, and our next story this
Nigeria is
morning,
not saying anything about this. But,
okay, let's see what Nigerians are saying.
Because Nigerians say a lot.
All right, let's go next and see what Nigerians are saying.
Bet Wizard, Bet Wizard says the 75 countries should mandate the U.S. to lift their embassy off their country and stop any U.S. passport from coming to their country in return. It's that simple. Let's see how you deal with 75 countries rejecting passports from your country. I know most of this decision it's just off the whims and caprices of one man, which is Donald Trump. So it's not a reflection of the entirety of America.
No, you'll be surprised.
He calls the shots.
You'll be surprised that majority of them think like him, and that
his supporters.
Yes, the supporters. They think like him. Those who believe that they need to make America great again. So there are many people that think that this is a laudable move. It's just that many of those who voted him in are quite surprised. There are a number of them. I don't want to use many. There are a number of them who are now probably surprised at his daringness. But I'm like, you already saw this before.
Yeah.
He's not doing anything different.
Uday says, wow, this is actually very serious. While it's necessary to act in the interest of the United States at all times as decision makers, it's also pertinent to apply fairness and balance, as not everyone should be penalized for the ill behavior of a few. Okay. David Kwarashi says the United States needs to either back Iranians in reclaiming their country or at minimum resume visa processing for people fleeing the Islamic Republic's brutality. You can't pause visas while saying we're going to help you and do nothing. Okay. That applies to Nigerians fleeing genocide, alleged Christian genocide too. The Tyranny's plan says, excellent, seriously excellent. I think we should actually do a full stop on all immigrant visas for a while. However, I can see both sides of this policy. So great, happy to see this sort of thing. Not only must we arrest and prosecute fraudsters and insurrectionists, we must change policies so that they can get into our system, so they can't get into our system in the future. Good on Trump for shutting down another way they defraud our country. And the irony is, okay, we'll get to that later. Richard Arian says Mexico is a greater public charge than many countries on this list, but it wasn't included solely because of the voting power of the Mexicans in Texas, he says.
All right.
Okay. I don't think this is what Nigerians are saying. These are what Americans are saying for this particular story. And the irony is the America as it is, the continent where the United States of America is located, the ground, the country that is so anti-immigrant, belongs to Native Americans, to the tribes, the Cherokees, the other tribes that make up what is today the present-day United States of America. Majority, Trump was also an immigrant from, his grandfather was an immigrant from Germany. So it's just ironic that we're watching this play out in real time. Okay. But let's move on to other matters.
Our next story is one that's really heartbreaking. The High Court of the Federal Capital Territory in Gwagwalada on Wednesday arraigned former Adamawa North Senator Elisha Abo and the co-defendants over the alleged rape and sexual assault of a 13-year-old schoolgirl. The case filed by the Inspector General of Police was heard before Justice I. Mohammed. Both defendants pleaded not guilty to all 9 counts. Following arguments from both sides, the court granted Abuja bail at 50 million naira with 2 sureties of good standing and ordered him to surrender his international passport. The second defendant received 40 million naira bail under similar conditions. Bingo.
I mean, this is not the first time he's in the news for something really negative. If you recall, when he was a sitting senator, he assaulted a lady that worked in a sex toy shop. Yes, and it made the rounds. He had to face a Senate committee on disciplinary issues. And then this one, I mean, is the Nigerian constitution says it's innocent until proven otherwise, but for your name and your personality to be associated with such a grievous and a very shameful act, it leaves more to be desired. So we'll wait and see how the court process plays out. But this is absolutely damning on his reputation. And I mean, assaulting and having canon knowledge of a minor is one of the worst things that could ever, one of the worst crimes that could ever be perpetrated. So it's terrible.
All right.
And I think that should effectively put an end to any political ambition he has in the future.
So, whilst Section 36, subsection 5 of the Constitution of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, provides that he is innocent until proven guilty. I must say that if we go by previous character evidence, which is what happened in 2019, where he assaulted a woman on camera with, evidence, there was evidence there. He did later issue an apology, one that many criticized and said that, it seemed arrogant and it didn't seem very heartfelt. So I think that what this tells us is that when you have people who are in positions of leadership, who act with impunity and are not punished for their actions, don't expect any different. What we see is a lot of politicians go into public positions and end up behaving poorly. And it feels like public office is a reward for bad behavior because they don't have measures, they don't have strong punitive measures against them when they act out of order. So if somebody with a position, a highly esteemed position, as being a lawmaker in a country, becomes a chief lawbreaker, and I'm not talking of lawbreaker in the sense of something that doesn't affect another person. You lift your hand and you assault. You didn't assault her with your mouth.
Not a traffic offense.
It's not a traffic. It's not a traffic offense, which is very bad. It's not a threat of abuse with using foul language. It's that you actually hit her
assault
physically, and it was caught on camera. And what was done about it? So when we need to get to the point where the best of us are the ones who lead us, and that's not the current reality. Where we can talk about the competence of our leaders, of our representatives. Competence is not just an academic qualification or your political experience. So this person has been in the House for 10 years. No, that's not the kind of competence we're talking about. We're talking about the quality of your character, the integrity that you have as a person. Until we start doubling down, until we start standing on business and insisting that we only put people who have great character, who have integrity, who will uphold the law, who will respect, Nigerians and respect themselves first. We'll continue to see things like this.
Absolutely.
So we didn't do anything about it at the time. And I don't know, I really hope that this matter is followed to a logical conclusion. And if he be found guilty, that he be made to face the law. But let's see what Nigerians are saying about this on X, and then we'll come back to take our next story. I thought police had exonerated him. Let's pause on that. So that's another issue.
It's not the work of the
We're not quite clear. Police, on the one hand, there have been mixed reports. There have been reports that police said there wasn't substantial evidence to charge him. Another report from police also saying that, he's being charged. I mean, we took reports of him being taking his plea in court. So it feels like there's been contradictory statements from the Nigerian police. Well, Adewale, that's his tweet. Checking out says, nothing punitive, exactly. Nothing punitive happens to our so-called politicians. No matter the level of crime committed, the money they loot is far enough for settling all cases. And our next tweet, with all these allegations, his wife still serenades him on TikTok every day. You don't mean it. I don't follow them on TikTok, so I don't even know what's happening there.
Okay. Do we still have more reactions? I guess not. Let's move on to our third wake-up story of the day. Suspected terrorists have released 17 more worshippers abducted from the evangelical church in Ayetoro, Kiribunu, bringing a total number of freed victims to 24, while 13 remain in captivity. Community sources confirmed the abductions, which took place on Sunday, December 14, 2025, saw armed men storm the church during a service and whisk away the parishioners to an unknown location, sparking panic and outrage across the community. The latest release follows weeks of intense negotiations between the kidnappers, the victims' families, and the Ayetoro Kiribunu Development Association, which has been coordinating efforts to rescue the hostages' freedom without involvement from the Kogi State government. Earlier releases on January the 1st, 2026 included 7 worshippers after a 15 million ransom payment, though tragically 3 of them had died. 3.
Yes, 3 have died, and 4 are in the hospital, according to what we hear.
And 2 while still in captivity, and 1 shortly after being taken to a hospital. Subsequent releases of 3 victims on January the 12th, followed by 14 more on January the 13th, highlights the ongoing community-led efforts to free the remaining hostages as families and residents appeal for prayers, public support, and urgent intervention from authorities to ensure the case and unconditional return of those still held. What I see here is a complete breakdown of morals in society. For you to kidnap minors, overage persons, senior citizens, it's the highest level of, there's nothing more despicable than this. Just look at this images.
Very despicable, man.
Just look at this image.
And you know what's even sad?
There was a time that you even think, okay, they only kidnap people of a certain social status. But now, this youth, this criminal element, are just interested in causing the most amount of heartbreak and, damage. And then people lose their lives in this kidnappings. People have died as a result of this. And it's just sad. It's
very sad on many levels. It's very sad because people are not allowed to freely practice their religion. And even if you take it away from religion, the generality of it is we have an insecurity problem. So these people are in their church, they're worshiping, the bandits come in, kidnap them. 3 people have died while in captivity, 4 are in the hospital. According to the reports last week, there were about 30 in captivity. Ransom is released. Apparently, according to reports, the newspaper reports that ransom is paid. They had an anonymous source that told them that the families and the communities have paid ransom. What's really sad in all of this is, 1, that the government cannot protect the citizens in a way that they first of all get kidnapped.
Multiple failure on many levels.
Then 2, yes, okay, the deed has been done, this has happened, the government cannot secure their release. They now have to pay. So it's double jeopardy. Not only do they have to deal with the harsh reality of the fact that they are unsafe in their own neighborhood, then they have to gather money, pool resources that they do not even have to rescue their family members because the government has failed to provide them security and then remedy the wrong that was done them. It's multiple failure on all fronts.
It's absolutely multiple failure on all points. And on all fronts. And imagine the trauma they went through. You saw the pictures, very harrowing pictures. They look so malnourished. I'm sure they didn't shower while in captivity. It's heart-wrenching. And you'll be wondering if there's any psychosocial support that will be given to these children. These children are scarred for life. Imagine leaving in captivity for that long. It's just terrible. This? And the state government goes about business as, there's no sense of urgency. We've desensitized ourselves to it. It's almost like, it's a normal occurrence. All you just have to do is you wish it doesn't happen to you or your loved ones. It's part of the daily reality in Nigeria. And for a country to normalize the kidnapping of children, kidnapping of people that has become a multi-billion naira industry, it only points to one thing. It means the government has failed in its responsibility of protecting the people of Nigeria. That's the barest minimum. These are people that in their normal lives, they're still struggling to survive, you know, struggling to get by. And then you kidnap them, put them in the bush for months. And it's terrible. That's little girl there shouldn't be more than 4 years old. Imagine the experience they've gone through. And the least the government can do is protect them. And there's no guarantee that we won't have another kidnapping incident.
Nope, there's no guarantee.
We need to find a final solution.
You know, we thought that the most harrowing thing our parents could have gone through, we thought, you know, when our parents told us the stories of the war and how harrowing it was, it's unfortunate that our generation now has their own version of horror to share with their children, if they survive to have children.
With terrorism and,
you know, to talk about terrorism, insecurity, where people don't even know if they go, you know, what happens. Anyway, we're streaming live on YouTube. New Central TV Live is the page where we're streaming, and we'd like to take your comments as well. If you'd like to react to any of the stories, we've talked about the church members from ECWA who were released and the potential of ransom that was paid for their release. We've touched on the AFCON match. We're going into details later. We'll be connecting with our correspondent to Doka Njoku, who will share with us more details in that regard. I mean, we've touched on a number of stories this morning, but now let's share with you what our headlines today will be on Breakfast Central. This morning on Breakfast Central, we'll be looking at celebrating our fallen heroes. Today is Armed Forces Remembrance Day, the 15th of January. I'll be celebrating our fallen heroes. SSANU, NASU threatened strike. They warn of total shutdown as federal government signed new agreements yesterday with ASUU. And we'll be looking into the details of the agreement and what this means for the education sector. We'll also be bringing you the recap of the Nigeria versus Morocco match. Udoka Njoku joins us live from Morocco. We'll be bringing the newspaper front pages where we open the phone lines and take your comments from YouTube as well. Join us for all these.
You're welcome back to Breakfast Central. The federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities have unveiled the long-awaited 2025 agreement, a major focus on lecturers' welfare, university governance and funding. The event, which took place in Abuja, had in attendance the Minister of Education, Tunji Alausa, the co-chairman of the negotiating committee with ASUU, Olanrewaju Tejuosho, and the president of ASUU, Chris Piwona. Officials say the agreement is expected to strengthen industrial harmony and improve stability in Nigeria's tertiary education sector. News Central correspondent Blessing Ahibe compiled this report.
After years of tension, strikes, and stalled negotiations, the federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities have finally put pen to paper, unveiling the 2025 landmark agreements aimed at resetting Nigeria's public university system.
The agreement provides for the review of the remuneration package of academic staff in federal tertiary institutions, as approved by the National Salaries, Income and Wages Commission. And this agreement, we're making promise to you today, this agreement will be effective from January 1st. I was effective from January 1st, 2026.
This agreement represents the culmination of sustained dialogue between the Federal Government of Nigeria, FGN, and the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, and reaffirms our collective commitment to the stability, quality, and global competitiveness of Nigeria's public university system.
This agreement is a testament to leadership that prioritizes national stability, social justice, and sustainable development.
The union says that while progress has been made on lecturers' welfare, unresolved issues remain over the alleged misuse of funds by some vice-chancellors set aside for proper university management.
Our universities are now run by consultants. It has become a clean way of cleansing the funds that the union has fought for. When we fight and we get funds to the universities, we are not satisfied with how vice-chancellors manage the funds.
Part of the agreement saw the federal government approving a 40% review of academic allowances and also introducing a new welfare package for senior academics in the university system.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has created another category of allowances called Professorial Cadre Allowance. This allowance is specifically designed to support research coordination, academic documentation, correspondence, and administrative efficiency.
Both parties say effective implementation of the agreement will be key to improving lecturers' welfare and preventing future disruptions in Nigeria's public universities.
The residents of Jakande in Lekki, Lagos State have bemoaned recent demolitions carried out by the Lagos State government, specifically calling out the Lagos State Building Control Agency, LABCA. They insist the demolitions are illegal as there's a court order restraining such a move. Join us to shed more light on this is...
2-3 of these things is denied us right as we speak. We said we don't want to sell cheap. Let us negotiate. I'm a professional builder. I know what the cost of material is. I know the value of the location we are here. I was born on the island in Lagos, and by the third mainland demolition, I came here. And today I am over 60 years old. The same thing that happened is repeating itself. We say no. And we call Lagos State to court. I tell you today, LABCA is a militant section of Lagos State. They are terrorists. All they do is to kill and maim. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Okay. Welcome. Thank you very much. I am a resident of this.
Join us this morning to shed more light on the demolitions as a former Etiosa local government chairmanship candidate and a member of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, Adele Lawal Adio. A warm welcome to you, Mr. Adio, and thanks for joining us on Breakfast Central this morning.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
And I did see you at the location of the demolitions. Could you kindly bring us up to speed with what happened yesterday, how you got there, your interactions with the people, and what generally transpired?
Well, it was quite a very touching interaction that I had, with members of that community in Ilasan Housing Estate at Jakande. Now, just to summarize, is that, very aggressive demolitions were ongoing and continues to go on as we speak. This very moment, people have their properties completely leveled to the ground with such wanton impunity, without a lack of empathy to what the people feel at the pain that they are currently going through. I must add that, the man you saw in the video who was addressing the press at the time was beaten to pulp yesterday. He was bleeding from head to toe by thugs who were sympathetic to the demolitions that were going on and who didn't want any kind of press presence to cover, the impunity that was ongoing yesterday. People were beaten. I particularly with, Mr. Rhodes Vivo were tear-gassed by, the policemen who were working alongside, LASPAC, who were conducting the demolitions, at the time. But it's important to also stress the fact that this demolition is also happening against a clear injunction by the Federal High Court in Lagos State, clearly restraining the government from going on with this demolition. The first injunction was issued sometime in May last year. It was extended to sometime in November 12th, 2025. And that same injunction was also extended up until February 2026, pending when parties appear in court. Now, you wonder why this level of brazenness and utter disregard for judicial decisions, especially by government, that expects, the Nigerian people or Lagosians to abide by the rule of law will flagrantly disregard such an order and go ahead to carry out demolitions where it is clearly stated by High Court that, such demolitions should be withheld until parties appear in court in February. So you ask yourself what the hurry is in the first instance, why February is so far for them to wait to appear in court and hear what the decisions or the outcome will be before they carry out these demolitions. But aside even waiting for a final decision on the restraining order as extended up until February, the question you also have to ask yourself is why a government that is set up and backed up by the rule of law will decide to flagrantly violate a judicial decision that clearly restrains them from carrying out those demolitions. And I must also quickly add, to summarize, that some of the residents there have, or the government rather, has decided to pay out compensations to people who have valid titles, in the housing estate. And it is laughable that the compensation that is being paid out to these individuals is 11.2 million naira. Now, Benga, 11.2 million naira cannot rent you a 2-bedroom flat in that axis in Lagos today. In fact, I dare say that 11.2 million naira cannot cover 3 years of rent anywhere in Lagos metropolis as we speak today. But that is what the government has decided to compensate people who have valid titles and they can go and die for all they care. I mean, it is outrageous, it is preposterous, and it is grossly unfair to people who have worked hard all their lives and have valid titles to their name and to be treated with such disregard and such impunity as though they were goats and not human beings.
All right, so let's also talk about these people. I know that there must be stories there. I saw a man there talking about being 60 and having the same thing repeated again and again. What are some of the most heartbreaking stories you've heard from there?
Well, you see, it's really saddening when you think about it, the amount of people who have lost their lives in this struggle. You'll recall, and I don't want to go back all the way back to the 1960s, perhaps let's start with the 1990s when the Morocco demolitions happened and, 300,000 people were displaced. Of course, that was under the military regime, but 300,000 people, many of whom had titles, were also displaced at the time and were forced out of their homes, their historical lands, for them to go somewhere else. With the argument that was made at the time was because it was for overriding public interest. And I'm going to come back to that. But the individuals, about 4,800, whose titles were verified by the government of the day, were relocated to places like Ikota, and some of them settled at the Ilasa housing estate that was recently demolished. When they went into that estate more than 30 years ago, the place was not inhabitable for human beings. They were living with reptiles, snakes, all sorts of wild animals, because if you recall, at the time, Jakonde was like the ends of Lagos, outside Victoria Island, and there was nothing outside, Jakonde at the time. But these people moved there with the injustice that was meted to them at Morocco and took that as some sort of solace to rebuild their lives. And today, people come back again to say, because development has gotten to that point, and now you want to push them further out of the city, out to Ekpe. Now, even if you have to do that, Benga, if you have to even move people out of that, for the sake of, development has gone there, we're going to make money from landed properties there, why don't you pay them a compensation that is commensurate to the value of the property that you are going to be selling these lands and these titles for? 11.2 million naira is so inhumane. And ask me, what are they going to do with that sum of money? What life are they going to start with that? Where are they going to rent property? And this seems to be the policy of the current administration. You see this happen in Oworoshoki. You see this happening currently in Makoko, where there is the belief that people who are poor or people who are in the working class have no business with development whatsoever. It's a segregation system that is defined by class, such as the kind of segregation that was meted out to black people when the colonialists were in charge of this country. It is a total disregard for humanity where you say that working class Lagosians have no business living in the city center, to say to them that you are not worthy to live in certain places that will be developed. And I think it's a shame to ourselves to look ourselves in the mirror and say to our people that you're not deserving to live in this kind of communities because you're poor, because you're not wealthy. And like I say, even if that is the conclusion that you make, even if you conclude that these people are too poor to live here, pay them the right value for their titles, and so they can move.
Now, Ayodele, still talking about this sad issues of the evictions and demolitions. One thing we know is that some people have started receiving some level of compensation, even though it's grossly inadequate for the present economic realities we're facing. And also the wanton disregard for court orders and court rulings. How do we move forward as a nation? Where do we go from here? When justice, which is said to be the last hope of a common man, is being ignored, and the government seems to get away with just doing whatever it feels like doing. Where's the hope, and how do these people begin to rebuild their lives? They already moved from Morocco 30 years ago, and now they've been evicted and their properties, all their hard work demolished. What's the hope for them, and how do we move on?
Benga, our country will not make progress without justice. We are not going to make progress if we continue with this wanton disregard for the rule of law. And I say this because we see it happen all across our country. We see it with the rise of non-state actors everywhere in Nigeria today, from the northwest to the northeast, to the southeastern part of the country, to every pocket of our nation today, where you have individuals who have taken up arms either against the state or their communities, largely because some were seeking justice and some had left with no other option but violence. We cannot build a nation without justice. As I speak to you today, Benga, you have more people on the streets in the Lekki-Ajah corridor than you have in Mushin today as we speak. And the reason is simple. You continue to eject people out of their ancestral homes. You continue to eject families out of their houses with valid titles without adequate compensation. Where do you expect these young people to move to? Where? That's why you have street people on the streets everywhere across this corridor. Drive round Lekki-Ajah corridor at night and see the amount of able-bodied young men on the streets, on drugs, abandoned, who are likely to be used as tools for violence in the near future because of this wicked policy by the state government. And except we go back to the basics of justice, we are not going to make progress. And I say it again, the law is clear. It says that if you're going to go and read section 28 and 29 of the Land Use Act. It says that you can only appropriate the title of an individual or a corporate entity for overriding public interest. And overriding public interest does not include, as defined by certain Supreme Court decisions, the transfer of property to private individuals. So the idea that in Lagos State, you will take land from the poor, ancestral land from people, and then, auction it.
How about the argument? How about the argument?
Complete disregard for the rule of law.
What about the argument the government often makes on urban renewal, that some of these places are slums, they're not fit for human habitation, that they harbor all sorts of criminal elements? Is that a valid enough reason?
Again, Benga, it is very insulting.
They say Lagos is a mega city.
To criminalize poverty, right? Because the idea that because people are poor, they become criminals, I think is greatly insulting to people in that class. The reality is this. the state government over the last 26 years has not made adequate investment in social housing in Lagos State. In fact, in recent times, it was beating its chest that it's built 10,000 housing units over the last 10 years. Please, Lateef Jakonde built close to 30 housing units in less than 4 years in his administration. And out of the 10,000 that this government claims that they have built over the last 10 years, more than half of them are not yet occupied as we speak today. Others are not social housing. Many of them were done in collaboration with the private sector and are sold at market rates. So a government that has not made critical investments in social housing, in fact, not even social housing, let's even put it at affordable housing for the working class, is the one telling you that it has to do what it has to do to clear slums. By the way, let me draw your attention that in Egypt, and I'd like you to read on this, 100,000 units of buildings were constructed in what used to be slums in the capital city, where slums were regenerated, they were rebuilt to house people in that class or that category. There is no reason why many of the slums in Lagos cannot be regenerated, cannot be upgraded, can social services not be provided so that the living conditions of the people living there are improved and they can have a decent livelihood. In fact, it is part of the state policy in Lagos State, what you call slum renewal in many of these communities, but they have completely abandoned and jettisoned it for capitalist and private interest, because many of these properties are situated in places that you can charge a premium for. And Benga, like I continue to stress, I do not have a problem with you claiming that, okay, you want to move people away from a particular area because, let's assume without conceding, that indeed it is for overriding public interest. Why aren't you paying them the value of their property? 11.2 million naira in 2026 for a title in Jakonde is wickedness, is insensitivity, and it's a death sentence, because you cannot rent property in that area at that price, neither talk less of buying the property at that value. It's a death sentence. And I think that if we don't speak out against this policy that is segregating people along class lines in Lagos State, who knows? It could be your estate tomorrow. It could be my estate tomorrow. Lagos was not designed for the rich and private interest alone, because many of these people that they call poor and abandoned provide essential services across the country, across the state. They are drivers, they are security men, they are cooks, they are washermen. They provide essential services in Lagos and must be treated with respect and dignity, and not the way that we have carried out this brazen lawlessness.
But what is it that makes us keep hearing incidences like this? This is not the first time we've heard the government being accused of demolitions. And I don't know, I don't want to be a prophet of doom, but I fear that it will not be the last. So what is it that causes a repeat of incidences like this?
I think it's two things. One, I think because citizens tend to abandon those who are in distress until it gets to their own doorsteps. We tend to take the position that it doesn't concern us, that perhaps I'm living in Bagada today, or perhaps I'm living in Magodo, and I could care less what happens to the people of Oworo, or I could care less what happens to the people of Makoko, or I could care less what happens to the people of Jakonde. You see, that sense of, to a very large extent, it's a bit self-serving, where you think that the problem hasn't come to your doorsteps, and we have not collectively demanded for better, is the reason why they continue to get away with this impunity. If the people of Lagos had sent a strong and resounding message that they will not tolerate the treating of people like this, when it happened in Otobogbami years ago, when it happened, in Morocco several years ago, when it happened in Oworo weeks ago, when it happened in Makoko, I think it will be clear to those in authority that you cannot treat people with impunity and treat them as though they do not have dignity.
We get the message that is being passed across, and we'll continue to follow up with that story. Now let's move on to another story. A federal high court in Abuja has ordered that hearing notices be issued and served on the Inspector General of Police and other parties in the fundamental rights enforcement suit filed by human rights activist and politician Omoyele Sowore. Sowore, who is suing the police boss, I beg your pardon, he's also suing the FCT Commissioner of Police and the Nigeria Police Force over his arrest, detention and arraignment by the police in Abuja. He's also demanding damages to the tune of 1.2 billion naira. At the hearing, Showore's counsel, Marshal Abubakar, informed the court that the matter was slated for mention and that all the defendants, despite being served with hearing notices, were absent from court with no reason given for their absence. Marshal Abubakar urged the court to deem the matter duly mentioned and to fix a date for definite hearing and adoption of processes. Consequently, the trial judge, Justice Mohammed Umar, adjourned the matter to March 10th for deadline hearing or definite hearing and directed that hearing notices be served on all defendants.
Today's case relates to the consistent violation of my rights by the Nigerian police. So I decided last year, when I've had enough, to sue the IGP of police, the illegal IGP of police, in his personal capacity.
The Nigerian police force are so used to acting with reckless impunity that they have forgotten that their powers is circumscribed by law and the Constitution. Like we emphasized and restated the optimum time, the police has no right or authority to arrest, detain, or to charge any person who has committed no offense. The Supreme Court has stated in the Plenary of Authorities that where a man is free, that man is free indeed and has no business visiting or being detained in prison. Unfortunately, the Nigerian Police Force believes that their power to investigate and to prosecute is at large.
Right. We'll continue to bring you updates in that from that story, and we'll probably bring Mr. Sowore himself here and have a detailed conversation. But now let's bring you a recap in case you're just joining of the conversations we've had this morning. Recall that today is the 15th day of January. It's Armed Forces Remembrance Day. But this morning we've looked at Morocco beating Nigeria 4-2 in a penalty shootout at the AFCON. And we've also looked at federal government and ASUU signing an agreement. What this agreement means, we'll look into details further. And we also have looked at Sowore against Inspector General of Police. But now let's share with you what's coming up next.
Coming up next this morning on Breakfast Central, today is Armed Forces Remembrance Day. We'll be talking to a veteran on the significance of this day. SSANU NASU, a threatening strike action. And we'll give you a report on the Abuja water crisis. Do stay with us. Breakfast Central continues shortly. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. The Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SSANU, and the Non-Academic Staff Union of Education and Associated Institutions, NASU, have called on authorities to urgently conclude their own pending negotiations to maintain industrial peace across Nigeria's tertiary institutions. This comes as the body congratulates the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, on signing a fresh agreement with the federal government. ASUU recently sealed a long-awaited negotiated deal with the federal government, ending years of stalemate over an initial unfulfilled 2009 agreement. The pact includes an upward review of academic salaries and enhanced allowances, and a move expected to improve welfare and institutional funding.
In their joint statement, SSANU and NASU, operating through their Joint Action Committee, hailed the breakthrough for ASUU, but stressed that delays in finalizing their own agreement risks chaos and the distortion of industrial peace within universities, urging the government to extend similar commitments to non-academic and senior staff. The unions are demanding fair and equitable payment of earned allowances, the release of withheld salaries and outstanding areas from past increments, and the speedy conclusion of the stalled renegotiation of their 2009 agreements. Joining us now is the president of the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SSANU, Mohammed Ibrahim. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
All right. It would seem that we've just had some form of a breakthrough with ASUU, and we're excited about that and hoping that it lasts, and in the coming months we don't see any forthcoming strikes. But now you've warned that delays in concluding your own negotiations could distort industrial peace. Would you say that the deal concluded with ASUU in some measure has then triggered your organization and made them realize that, look, we need to have this conversation and we need to have it now?
Well, you see, let me once again congratulate our colleagues who are in the academics, members of ASUU, for this milestone, And it's good that after 16 years of wait and struggles, they've been able to sign the deal yesterday. We are not just waking up. University is universal and it's a system. And in all our public universities, we have 4 registered unions: ASUU, SSANU, NASU, and NAT. And this is populated. These unions are populated by workers in the university, different professionals. The ASUU members, as the name defined, is made up of academic staff who control teaching and research. Now, the other components of the university who are even in the majority are those in administration, those in professional works. Then you have doctors, you have engineers, you have architects, planners, lawyers. And in 2009, the 4 unions had their agreements, renegotiated and signed by the then federal government. And this is what we've been fighting for, its full implementation for the 16 years that has elapsed. Now, this government came and gave hope to the university community. The president of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he showed his love for workers in the university. First, by approving the payment of our withheld salaries, but they were only able to pay 50%. 50% is still, hanging, and we've been pushing for it. Now, the renegotiation of the 2009 agreement was kickstarted by government through a committee led by an elder statesman, Malam Yayale Ahmed. Now, I don't know the wisdom in how government does its work. It decided to concentrate on ASUU's renegotiation. Fine, they have done that, they have finished it, and yesterday we saw the signing. And we only met in October when the committee was inaugurated, and then the second meeting we had was on the 23rd of December, and we agreed to meet or to continue the renegotiation by the second week of January, which is this week. And we have not received any invitation yet. Now, what we did yesterday, apart from congratulating, our colleagues in ASUU, we just tried to, remind government that you still have an unfinished business with 3 other unions. And especially I'm talking about NASU and SSANU. But there's also a NAT that is somewhere else there. Now, we have said that there's no way you can have peace, harmony, tranquility, and progress in an environment where you show clear preference of a certain group leaving the other. So we are just conscientizing government. And to be forewarned is to be forearmed. That there is no way you can have a conclusive agreement with our colleagues in ASUU and forgetting to do the remaining renegotiation with the other unions. Because this is what breeds, issues within the university. For example, this agreement of ASUU is to be implemented by our members. We are the ones working in the registry, we are the ones working in the bursary. So purely administration is our work. So by the time you bring in this agreement and say, okay, implementation is from January and you guys should go and do this, what happens to these members? How would they feel? Are you trying to show them that they are not important or they are of lesser, relevance? So this is what we are saying. Government should use its wisdom for NASU and SSANU so that there will be complete harmony, peace, and tranquility, progress in our universities. We are not antagonistic to, having a peaceful atmosphere within, our own citadels of learning. So government has been conscientized. Government have been, told that there is need to conclude agreements. To sign agreements also for NASU and for SSANU.
Now, from what you've told us this morning, the issue with SSANU is that the government is not fulfilling its own end of the bargain. What's the latest in your discussions and negotiations with the federal government, and is there a time frame to the implementation? What have they promised you, and what's the next line of action for SSANU?
Well, the 2009 agreement is a complete document. For SSANU, we have about 27 items, ranging from conditions of service to, issues about other things that affect, our members working in the university, So we have started discussions with the committee, Yayale committee, and what our concerns are: the renegotiation is slow. They should fast track it, and that our members are patient. We've been pleading with them to understand that there is a whole lot of things to do, and that this committee, populated by statesmen, people who are, very positive and disposed towards ensuring that our universities operate, we urge government to facilitate the meetings. As the committees may wish to work, but the government will have to give the platform. The secretariat is in NEC, National Universities Commission, and also National Universities Commission and the Ministry of Education. So in as much as, these people may wish to work, if the Ministry of Education and the National Universities Commission are not disposed to, providing the platform for these meetings will not hold. So our members are patient enough, and that what we are saying is that if within reasonable time possible, we have been promised second week of January. This is second week of January. By now, we ought to have received our letters of invitation for these meetings, and we have not received so. So if we don't receive, and that implementation starts for our colleagues in the other sector of teaching, we cannot guarantee peace. We cannot guarantee continuous, work in the environment, because there is no way you can have 4 children and then you show preferential treatment on one and leaving the others. That is pure injustice. That is not strategic, and that government should be able to understand this and work on it seriously.
We wanted to give us paint a picture for us of what happens if, SSANU's requests and demands are not being met, and what that would mean for Nigeria's education sector. Also for those, I know there have been concerns about unequal payment of end allowances, but can you give us the key areas, if you can share again, the key areas of dispute from the 2009 agreement?
Out of the 27
well,
listed,
like I said,
how many have been fulfilled?
Yes. Yeah. We have discussed only 2 out of 27.
What to
so
have?
We still have 25 left.
So what to have been fulfilled?
Yes, and like I said, the document encompasses our condition of service, and then financials, from salaries to other emoluments, including the earned allowances and other things, and it affects our welfare and well-being, as members of staff working in the universities. Now, if our demand is not met, what we normally do, we have a structure. We go back to our principals, that is members of our unions, at the level of the branches, and we lay bare our present, predicament. They will now decide on what they want us to do. If they ask us to shut down the universities, we may have no option. We will have to do that. And for your information, if the members of NASU and SSANU decide to withdraw their services, those universities cannot function because we are in charge of all the services, administration, security, medicals, student services, finances, and then a whole gamut of whatever that is there in the university minus teaching. So we are not, hoping to do that. But if we are pushed to the wall, of course, we will not have any other option because we are not slaves. We are also workers. We are appointed. We have our instrumentality of work, our appointment letters. And the condition should be that all workers in the university should be treated fairly and squarely. Everybody should be happy to work within the university. But when you begin to do things, in the format the government has employed, it is not a good one. Because in 2009, same exercise took place and the signing was seamless. It didn't have to do ASUU, and then you now will not even know when the others will complete. So the current strategy is faulty, is wrong, and government should wake up from its slumber and ensure that workers in the universities are treated equally, fairly, and then properly.
All right. Thank you very much for sharing these with us. And just to confirm, what sort of support do you need to drive home your point? Do you have any other organizations that are showing support? Is the Nigerian Labour Congress with you? Are there other organizations that have shown or that you would like to show support to your cause?
Yeah, I thank you for this very important question. Nigerian Labour Congress, being the umbrella body of most of these public sector unions, we are an affiliate. And for your information, I'm even the sitting National Internal Auditor of Nigerian Labour Congress. And that at the first meeting we had, in October, had the presence of the president of Nigerian Labour Congress, Comrade Joe Ajero. He attended that meeting, and we have the full support of the Nigerian Labour Congress, and that we have the solidarity of all our other unions who are the affiliates of NLC.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to having the conversation and seeing that the government heeds your call, meets your demands, and that we can have peace across board, across all the organizations that determines Nigeria's academic space. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and you have our best wishes.
Thank you so much. A stitch in time saves 9, as the wise men say. So government should do the needful.
We hope they make it while the sun shines. Thank you. All right.
Today is Thursday, the 15th day of January, and polls open in Uganda as President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni is seeking a 7th term in office after spending 40 years in government. He looks to extend his 4-decade rule amidst a police crackdown, fears of violence, and an internet shutdown. The East African nation holds a contentious general election today. And we go to our correspondent, Bongani Siziba, who's covering the elections for us in Kampala, Uganda.
It's a D-Day today for Ugandan citizens. They will be exercising their rights, voting for the incoming president. We understand that there are 8 candidates on the ballot box, and also there are at least 480 parliamentarians that should be voted for. But as you can see in the streets of Kampala, there are business centers. Some of them are empty, but also the streets are very full with people going on with their businesses. Some are going to vote, but there are those also that they are saying they are not going to vote because they have nothing to vote for. So I had an opportunity to speak to some of the citizens here in Kampala. Let me just speak to some citizens that I met here. Good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us. You told me you are going to vote today. What are you going to vote for?
I'm going to vote for my country.
Why? So why is it important for you to vote?
It is important to vote because we want to get a president who can manage us to work on our things.
I don't want exactly you to tell me who are you going to vote for, but what are some of the things or challenges or things that you think the current president has done for you, and also challenges that the country face?
In some currents, the whole president is not bad, but we need a change this time.
What kind of change are you looking for?
Someone who can take our countrymen. Sorry?
What kind of change are you looking for?
What kind of change?
Yes, what do you want to see for the incoming president?
Incoming president?
Yes.
To help the young people to get jobs. They don't have jobs. Many persons don't have jobs. We need to get jobs and go and take our country. Sorry.
Okay, let me just bring in someone else. Good morning and thank you for joining us. Are you going to vote today?
Yes, we are going to vote.
Tell me, what are you voting for, and how has been things here in Uganda? Are you happy with how the things are?
We are not happy. Most of us, we are not happy according to the situation which is taking place. The internet is off. The country is on tension. So everyone is in fear. Soldiers, tear gases, mambas, drones everywhere. Soldiers, they are everywhere. So we are on tension. So that is not erection when the country is on tension and on fear. Everyone is on fear because the soldier is around everywhere, and we are expecting more on the street because the government in charge, they fear people to protest. That's why they cut off the internet. We are like, even we expect to cut off the calls and the electricity, everything.
And also, what are some of the challenges that as youths of Uganda have been facing? And also, we know there are positives.
The youth for Uganda, they need change because the ruling president has ruled us for 40 years. And now he's shaking for another 5 years to make a 45. So the younger generation, almost 80% of Ugandans, they never seen any other president. So people, they are yearning for change. That is the fact. 80% they never seen any other president. So younger generation, they are yearning for change. They want to see a peaceful transition of power from, because this president, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, is a bushman. He came through using a gun. So, and after ruling us 10 years, then he set the direction. Now, 30 years. So, Uganda need to see a peaceful change of power through voting, because the last president, they were going to fight in the bush. So they want to see a peaceful transition of power. But Museveni has set up the votes, but it is not votes. No, because even he made some statement and said that just voting can't outset me from the power. And I passed through the fire. So anyone who needs the power, he should do the same thing to pass through the fire. The fire, what he is meaning that he passed through the bush, he fight. He slept in the forest for more than he slept in the forest for 5 years. So he can't just give away the power. That's why he's bringing the soldier on the street, everything. That is why he is doing all that.
Those are some of the sentiments of Ugandans on the streets, talking about the cut of internet and also the visibility of the army and also police that we can attest to. We have seen visibility of police and army on the streets, and also just to ask my cameraman just to show you around. Many people, I think they have come out to go and vote because this is one of the business areas in Kampala. We can see that the stalls are very empty. People have gone to vote, but it's still early in the morning. We just see as we monitor throughout the day going out to polling stations to see how Ugandans are voting today. And also, as we have heard the sentiments from some of the citizens that I've just spoken to, they want, Uganda is facing high unemployment rate, just like any other African country. And also they are saying that they need change because they feel that the current government might have not done things that they wish for. But also there are those that feel happy about the current situation in Uganda, and so today is the D-Day for Ugandans going out to exercise their vote, to vote for the incoming president out of the 8 that are on the ballot box. It's now back to you in the studio.
Thank you very much, Bongani Siziba, for bringing us updates from Uganda regarding the elections. Quite
unprecedented.
No, it's not unprecedented, Binga, because this is sort of the norm.
And
it's
this is Africa,
exactly.
exactly.
Africa.
But 7th consecutive term, and after 40 years in office. You know, I wish we had that video. I'll probably bring it up one of these days. The irony is when President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, popularly known as M7, emerged as president of Uganda, he said the problem of Africa is that people don't know when to take a bow. They stay too long. There's sit-tight leaders, and 40 years down the line.
What does that tell you? It tells you about the intoxicating nature of power and how that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. They get a hold of it and then they don't want to relinquish it. And it seems to be something that we struggled with here on the continent, where we have old leaders who have gotten a taste of power and the luxury that power brings.
I mean, old leaders for a young continent. The median age in Uganda, I believe, is about 17. And look at Cameroon, for example. It's almost like no continent for young men.
Yeah, exactly. Cameroon that just had their elections last year, some months back. It's an unfortunate...
But hopefully we'll change it come 2020.
Who is the we that you are speaking about?
Youths, people like you and Johansson. You still have a lot of energy. I hope to see you in the political arena. Hopefully you have what it takes to
I do have what it takes. Thank you very much for the kind words. All right, we'll go on a break, and when we come back, we'll be looking at the Nigerian Armed Forces Remembrance Day. Today is the 15th of January, where we honor their lives, their memories, and the contribution that they've made to our security. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. A married couple has testified as fresh witnesses in the ongoing trial of the 5 suspects accused of conspiring to carry out the 2022 attack on St. Francis Catholic Church in Owo, Ondo State. One of the witnesses told the court that she suffered life-altering injuries, including amputation and loss of sight in one eye following the attack. Our correspondent, Joshua Emarai, brings us more in this report.
It was another day of harrowing testimonies as victims of the 2022 Owo church attack recounted their ordeal in court. At the resumed hearing, the prosecution called 2 witnesses, a married couple codenamed SST and SSE. The first witness, a nurse with the Ondo State Nursing Board known as SSD, told the court that she sustained severe injuries during the attack and had her leg amputated above the knee. She also told the court that the explosion damaged her left eye and she displayed the prosthetic eye she now uses as a result of the incident.
Both of them were eyewitnesses, and one of them is a victim who actually had her legs amputated as a result of the explosive used.
The second witness for the day, SSE, narrated how the attackers initially struggled to gain access into the church through the main entrance before opening fire through the windows and eventually forcing their way inside. He told the court that explosives were used on worshippers as they attempted to flee through the side exits. He also alleged that after the expiration of the tenure of the previous Ondo State administration, the state government abandoned his wife, who had been promised prosthetic legs.
So far, they've not identified my clients. They've not connected my clients. This is a very dangerous case. In their charges, they mention the nature of a gun. You understand? So nobody is mentioning it. I know I've given them answer because everybody will listen and they will go and prepare for us. No problem. There are other ways.
After hearing the testimonies of the witnesses, Justice Emeka Nwite adjourned proceedings to the 10th and 11th of February for the continuation of trial. In Abuja, for News Central, I am Joshua Imarayi.
Now, residents of Abuja Area Council are calling for provision of water to residents in the area council. Speaking to News Central Television crew and presenting a list of demands, including expectations ahead of the FCT Area Council elections scheduled to hold in February 2026. Some residents say consistent vandalization of power cables and incomplete water treatment facility has made it nearly impossible to access potable water. News Central's Sagir Ibrahim brings in this report.
Council elections is just around the corner, and while politicians have been out on the streets canvassing votes and support from residents, but we're out on the streets of Abuja Area Council asking residents what their expectations are from those vying office. How have those occupying office at the local government councils performed over the course of the last few years in office?
4 good months, no light at all from FCT. I don't know why. This is Abuja. It's part of Abuja, and don't know why we are facing this heavy problem. In the actual sense, the impact is not fair. It's negative, somewhat negative.
With another round of elections set to commence in the FCT, residents now have fresh expectations for those who intend to take up the mantle of leadership.
This is the Science Primary School in Abuja Area Council of Abuja. Now, some communities would often call for an improvement in the quality of education in their communities. But for the residents of Abuja Area Council, the challenge is not basically on education. It's rather on something else, and that is access to quality and potable water. For most of them, they've been unable, due to a lack of electricity in the community, to access potable water, and they have relied on the goodwill on individuals such as the owner of this house to access water, to cook, to drink, and to carry out basic daily responsibilities.
If there is no light, we don't have water, because that is the challenges that we are facing now. As you can see, we are buying truck of water from the place that they were fetching water to our destination now, 1,000 naira, 1,500, 2,000 naira every blessing day. Most of our people, the money that we're supposed to use to feed our family and we ourselves, we are using it, we are struggling to mount a solar, which is not supposed to be.
That one has even removed some people from the town for lack of light. And then after with the light, we cannot get water.
They started something like as if they are going to do it in a very gigantic way, but they are abandoning halfway. If you go down there, it is there like that, and they mount a lot of this water reservoirs in a place, but there's no water.
They also made other demands.
University, answer saka ariyo muna sa idu ahanya ba makaranta. Dwala muna roko unde ala ya basi.
The road, it is not there. No network. Sometimes if you want to call someone, you climb tree.
Despite these concerns, officials of the local government say that Abuja is better off than in the past.
The chairman has spent a very multiple millions of naira to make sure that light has been restored. But our counterparts, local government, which is Swahili, are not giving us cooperation. He has built a hospital that can accommodate 80 best capacity.
What I know about the hospital is that we saw building going on and we asked, they say it's a big hospital, and we're all happy that at least we're going to have a big hospital close to us here. Then we've been waiting for the commission and nothing is happening, so we don't know what is happening about it.
For residents of Abuja Area Council, the election goes beyond campaigns and campaign promises. For them, it's a commitment between the leaders and the led for the general improvement of the lives of the led. In Abuja Area Council, for News Central, Sagir Ibrahim.
Quite disappointing, Sagir Ibrahim. Thank you for that report, but really disappointing
from the Abuja
to see that
Area
we're talking
Council
about water
in
2026. Very disheartening. But let's talk about Armed Forces Remembrance Day, which is today. Nigeria on the 15th of January observes Armed Forces Remembrance Day, honoring fallen officers and soldiers who died defending the country's unity, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. The annual event serves as a solemn national reflection on the sacrifices made by members of the armed forces from the First World War and the Nigerian Civil War to ongoing counterinsurgency, internal security, and peacekeeping operations. Beyond ceremonial wrestling and military parades, the day draws attention to broader issues of patriotism, the human cost of conflict, and the welfare of serving and retired personnel, as well as families of the fallen. With Nigeria still facing security challenges, including insurgency and banditry, this year's commemoration underscores the need for sustained support for troops on the front lines, improved care for veterans, and continued reforms within the nation's security architecture.
Join us now is CEO and founder of IBI Foundation, a veteran of the Nigerian Armed Forces, and advocate for veterans' welfare through his Veterans Outreach Initiative. We're joined by Lieutenant Commander Ibrahim Babaina, retired. A warm welcome to you, sir, and thanks for joining us on Breakfast Central. But let's just take a listen to this video.
It's always a pleasure to be on News Central.
We're happy to have you. Let's take a look at this video and then we'll come back to our questions.
Around our country. Nobody and no one will love our country more than ourselves. If we want a better Nigeria, we must unite to work together. As Nigerians, once we stand together against all odds, we will overcome. The Super Eagles have shown us that when you come together, there's no challenge that you cannot confront.
Before I pray, I have two appeals. As we journey towards 2027, I appeal to all of you to remain neutral and remain patriotic. Number two appeal. As ordinary citizens like us are hearing stories of what is happening in other West African countries, the way the militaries are taking over, we appeal to you. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Just allow us to be making our mistakes and learning from our mistake. Eventually, we will get it.
The blood of our valiant heroes and heroines serves and will continue to serve as the seed of our national unity and progress, just as the blood of the martyrs in the seed of Christianity serves as gateway to heaven.
Those are excerpts from the church service marking the 2026 Armed Forces Remembrance Day. Once again, we have with us Lieutenant Commander retired Ibrahim Babaina, the CEO and founder of IBI Foundation, who happens to be a veteran of the Nigerian Navy. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'd like to start off by saying congratulations on your Distinguished Citizen Service Award that was conferred to you yesterday by the Minister of Defense. Now let's get straight into it. For those who have worn the uniform like you and also lost colleagues in service like you, what's the significance of the Armed Forces Remembrance Day? What does it truly represent beyond just ceremonies and the the emblem and speeches.
Okay, thank you. Once again, I'm Lieutenant Commander Ibrahim Baba Inna, retired. I just have to make a little correction there. This year, it has been changed. It's no more Armed Forces Remembrance Day, but Armed Forces Celebration and Remembrance Day.
Okay.
Before now, the Armed Forces Remembrance Day was all about remembering our fallen heroes, appreciating them for their sacrifice, their service to our nation from the First World War, Second World War, and the Nigerian Civil War. So the Armed Forces Remembrance Day was a one-day event before now, but this year, and as we had earlier on the Minister of Defense speaking, it's all about also celebrating our living personnel, those in different theaters of operation in the country, those that still have their families with them. So it's all about honoring our fallen heroes and also honoring the personnel serving our nation right now. So it's a double event taking place right now in the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
All right. Congratulations and thank you for highlighting the celebration aspect of it. And what does that celebration typically look like for those who are members and those like yourself who have won this, and even the civilians, those who are on the outside who don't have a proper understanding? What do the celebrations typically look like?
So as I stated earlier on, the January 15th before now was to go to the arcade and lay the wreath for the unknown soldier on the fallen soldier. That happens all across the country. But with the celebration now and with the wisdom of the Minister of Defense, he was the Chief of Defense Staff, and he realized that there was something really missing, that we needed to celebrate those still serving. And that's why the celebration has come up. We commenced with the mosques, and then with the Islamic and the religious aspect, Christianity, they go to the church and mosques. Thereafter, there was a gala that I was given this award, the Distinguished Service Medal Award. Also, there's a golf kitty so that officers and personnel can come together and mingle. There was also a gala for the soldiers, airmen, and ratings of armed forces. And then there was a regimental dinner night yesterday for the members of the armed forces. Also, the Nigerian Legion is key to it. The Nigerian Legion is in charge of the veterans of the armed forces. So there was a lot of outreach yesterday, and I was part of the outreach. During the outreach, I also donated blood because there was a voluntary blood donation for the Armed Forces Celebration and Remembrance Day. So there was a lot of outreach. They shared foodstuff. They also shared foodstuff to retired veterans. Some of them that were there, they gave them BP machines, sugar checking machines. So the celebration goes beyond just our fallen heroes. Right now, those that are serving also see that the country also appreciates them for their selfless service and sacrifice for our dear nation. Celebration is both for our fallen colleagues and also for those serving, so that the sense of belonging among ourselves will also grow together. For those out there not knowing more about it, I'm sure everybody has been seeing this emblem being worn here, is to signify the Armed Forces Celebration and Remembrance Day.
All right.
This, I'm sure people see at ports when they are traveling, in banks, that people should get it. The funds raised from selling this is also pushed back to the veterans to assist them in their daily activities. Because the veterans are really going through a lot. I'm a veteran. I really know what I'm going through with the situation of things, economic situation of things. So the little help that comes through the donation of this and support of different private and government organizations really go a long way to help the veterans.
Let's pause on that.
Yes.
Let's pause on that because I want us to expand and talk about what the reality of those who are alive are experiencing and the areas we need to see change. But we're going to a quick break, and when we come back, the conversation continues. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're still celebrating Armed Forces Celebration and Remembrance Day 2026. Thank you very much to our guests for staying with us. Now let's talk about what the current reality is. You were explaining about the poppy and how that adds, the sales from the poppy adds to the finances and the resources of veterans. How would you say the government has made provision for the veterans? Would you say that is adequate? What areas would you like to see an improvement? So
if I say veterans are all doing well, everything is okay, I'm lying. I'm a veteran. I shouldn't lie to people watching this or to myself. Things are not easy. Veterans are really going through a lot. And the veterans I'm referring to are not the veterans in the city centers. The veterans we have are spread around the country in so many villages, in communities that don't have basic amenities. So our veterans are really going through a lot of issues, be it health, be it economic, a lot of problems facing them. However, whatever happens, we should also be hopeful. Government is doing its best. The minister, I was with him a few days ago. I also had a meeting because of my initiative, the Veterans Outreach Initiative. I'm trying to see how I can complement government efforts. Because when I retired, I sat down and realized that nobody was reaching out to me as a veteran. So instead of sitting down, I felt that I needed to take action. I needed to be different. And that's why I started the Veterans Outreach Initiative. And we've been able to reach out to veterans in communities, in villages, that since they left the service, they've not had any contact with the military. The beauty about it is that they still get their pension, and with the e-verification now, it's easier. Before now, we see veterans on the streets of Abuja, places loitering everywhere. But now that it's become electronic, it's easier. You can easily just get your data online and fill it, and you get your pension promptly and all your entitlements. So government is trying its best. I heard about the Renewed Hope initiative for veterans, and I've had with the Nigerian Legion too, we've had some discussion. A lot has been ongoing, but a lot more needs to be done, because these people gave their lives for this nation of ours. They sacrificed their youth and their adult life, giving their best for Nigeria. So I feel Nigeria now shouldn't abandon them. A lot is being done, and with the new minister of His Honorable Minister of Defense, General C.G. Musa, retired, he understands the plight of the veterans, and that's why he added this celebration to the event of the Armed Forces Remembrance Day. So a lot has to be done. It's not easy. I won't say we're having it fun. It's because I'm here, I'm active, I'm moving around, I'm doing my best. I try my best to get funds from private or public organization. Whatever it is we get, we carry it to the veterans that are their bots. A lot more needs to be done for the veterans.
Talking about doing a lot more for the veterans, you and I were at a celebration recently, and at some point in time, your course mates in the Nigerian Defense Academy, those who paid the ultimate price, were recognized. A 1 minute silence was observed for them. And in the last 10 to 15 years, Nigeria has witnessed serious insecurity challenges, which has led to widows. What are the realities of widows of fallen men of the armed forces and the children? What sort of reality do they face today? And where do you think the biggest gaps in support still exist?
Yes, thank you for being part of the reunion we had to celebrate the newly promoted Brigadier Generals, Commodores and Air Commodores. Let me state this before I speak about the dependents, the wives and the children and the situation they are going through. From the Nigerian military school, so many of us, same like you, we started our military journey from the early age of 11, 10 at the Nigerian military school Zaria. So many of us have served this nation for about 20 to 30 years already, giving our best. And I can tell you, from those that we started with the Nigerian military school, Nigerian Defense Academy, I can tell you that from the time we've been commissioned till now, more than 30 of our colleagues have died, paying the supreme price for this, our nation. Lieutenant Colonel Abu Ali, Lieutenant Colonel Manu Zagi, Lieutenant Colonel Anago Amanze, Lieutenant Colonel Kabiru Yusuf, Major S.K. Umaru, Major Dalaki, Major Sakaba, a lot. I can just keep calling you. These are people that we trained with in the academy for 5 years. Some my mates, some my juniors and my seniors. So I can tell you more than 30 have died. These are just officers, not to talk about the soldiers, airmen, and the ratings. So we really have to honor them. And that's why the Armed Forces Celebration and Remembrance Day is here, to honor these our fallen heroes. We can't really repay back the families, the wives especially, we say those in charge of the home front, for holding the homes together. So back to the families, the wives and children. So there's this dependent fund that they give the families once the breadwinner killed in action, missing in action, or has died, paying the supreme price. Just like I said earlier on, nothing can replace the loved one. Nothing can replace that father or husband at home or brother. So it's the military is doing its best, but that's why colleagues too and classmates and classmates also come in and augment whatever that comes in. But really, nothing can return what has been lost. Just the little that is given back, the payment that needs to come to them, and also a lot of talk, appreciation. Just like during the program, funds were raised, almost about 10 million for widows of veterans in Jaji, Kaduna, and also it's going to spread to other places. And the foundation too, Veterans Outreach Foundation of the IBI, is also going to partner with that organization so that we touch the lives of more widows of veterans. But the truth is that I can't really say that it's Uhuru, they are all doing fine. No, the breadwinner is gone, the father is gone, the husband is gone. You can't get that back. But little is being done, or the best the military can do, they are trying for the loved ones.
Life during the transition phase, transitioning from military to civilian life, can be very difficult. So what would you say are some of the most pressing challenges that ex-servicemen encounter in this transition process? And what kind of support do you have? Is there some sort of psychosocial support? What are the supports, the areas that you think you're struggling with and you need an improvement?
Acquisition.
Yes.
So PTSD is one of the biggest issues. I think some post-traumatic stress disorder, you know, some of these people with the last 10 years or 15 years since the insecurity became something else, a crop of officers have really not seen peace in this country. I'll tell you, since the insurgency commenced in the northeast and what we are having in the southeast, and then now in the northwest with bandits all over, a generation of officers have not seen peace. All they've been seeing has been battle, fighting, losing colleagues, loved ones, friends, brothers, comrades, a lot they've lost. So PTSD is one of the biggest issues, and that's why there's a lot of discussion happening with National Hospital, the Trauma Center, how to really speak with them and integrate them. Because you've given your life, many years of your life, serving this nation in one particular aspect of field. You're a professional in using the gun, but once you retire, you don't use that skill anymore. You have to now transition being an entrepreneur, a farmer, or something. And that's why we have the Resettlement Center, Armed Forces Resettlement Center in Oshodi, Lagos, where before you retire, you go there, you learn one or two skills. Is it tailoring? Is it carpentry? Is it whatever it is you feel you can do? While some of the officers also go to Pan-African Atlantic University in Lagos or outside the country to learn one or two things about entrepreneurship. But the formative years has already been built serving this nation in security-related matters. So that's why we'll be coming here with some of our programs, skill acquisition program. We get the people in partnership with SMID, of course, how can they assist these people and niche that to teach them some skills. Our military personnel, I'm telling you, I've trained with them as some of the most intelligent and well-educated and vast in different fields. So I know they are very smart and intelligent, and they can fit into the society. But it will take a little bit of time for them to leave the uniform, what they've been doing. They've been structured, disciplined in one way of life, but after retiring, everything changes, you know, coming back to the society, you see a different life completely from what you had before. Absolutely. So the IBI Foundation, in partnership with others, we are doing our little best. It's massive, because if you hear the number of our personnel coming out, retiring, and don't know what to do, because sometimes you have the money, but how do you invest right? And that's where we come in with the Veterans Outreach and other skill acquisition programs in partnership with the Nigerian Armed Forces.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant Commander Ibrahim Babayina, retired CEO and founder of the IBI Foundation. It was an absolute pleasure speaking with you, and also speaking with the distinguished fellow ex-boy of the Nigerian Military School, Zaria. Always a pleasure. Continue the great work you do and will continue to support and celebrate members of the Nigerian Armed Forces.
Armed Forces.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
You're watching Breakfast Central. We'll go on a quick break, and when we return, it will be time for Breakfast Headlines with Olive Emodi.
You should now.
President Bola Tinubu has mourned the death of veteran journalist and Newswatch magazine co-founder Alhaji Yakubu Mohammed, who died on Monday night. The president described Mohammed as a fearless journalist whose career spanned over 50 years and was dedicated to nation building. Yakubu Mohammed co-founded Newswatch in 1984 alongside Dele Giwa, Dan Agbese and Ray Ekbu, helping to shape investigative journalism during Nigeria's military era. President Tinubu also sympathized with the family, the people of Kogi State, and media organizations where the late journalist served. And now let's head out of Nigeria, where the U.S. State Department has announced a temporary pause on immigrant visa processing for citizens of 75 countries starting from January 21st, 2026. This move affects nations across Africa, Asia, Europe, and South America, including Nigeria, Somalia, Russia, Iran, Afghanistan, Brazil, Iraq, Egypt, Thailand, and Yemen. Officials say the pause will continue indefinitely while consular officers review screening and vetting procedures, particularly under the long-standing public charge rule. That rule allows visa officers to refuse entry to applicants who are deemed likely to become dependent on U.S. public benefits. Under the review, factors like health, financial resources, and age, as well as English skills, may be used more strictly when assessing applicants. Exceptions may be allowed, but are expected to be very limited. The Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, has commended the Massachusetts Institute of Technology for its far-reaching impact on global innovation and entrepreneurship, noting that MIT-linked initiatives have raised over $1.5 billion and created more than 30,000 jobs in the last 2 decades. The Vice President made the remarks while receiving a delegation of the Co-Sharper Foundry Fellowship at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. Senator Shettima urged African entrepreneurs to close ranks and leverage global networks to unlock the continent's vast human and economic potential, describing Africa as the world's new frontier for innovation.
So I believe that Africa, the future belongs to us. And we have to unite as a people. Out of the 9 or 10 unicorns in Africa, 6 are in Nigeria. Flutterwave, Paystack, Opay, Andela, Moneypoint, are all Nigerians. So you have come to the digital capital of Africa.
This particular fellowship of Foundry Fellows has over 55 fellows from across Africa who will now be working together to build entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystems across the continent, which we hope will be able to create the number of jobs required to at least maintain youth unemployment at its current rates, as opposed to it increasing. And so we're very optimistic about what these fellows will be doing in the future. They are already job creators and they will continue to be job creators.
The Egyptian government has warned of persistent instability which has continued to threaten the region of the Red Sea and the Horn of Africa. The Egyptian Foreign Minister Bade Abdelati made this known as at Cairo today hosted the 5th consultative meeting, which had partners in attendance to coordinate peace initiatives for Sudan. Abdelatif, while emphasizing Egypt's red line, says the prioritizing Sudan's territorial integrity and national institutions is key and must be taken into account. The meeting had key delegates from the United Nations, the United States, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates all converged in Cairo to deliberate on global strategies for ending the devastating conflict, which has claimed thousands of lives, leaving thousands more homeless. The summit, which was chaired by Abdelatif, commenced on January the 14th, 2026. And that's all at this hour. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll now continue with Breakfast Central. My name is Olive MOD.
Hello, welcome back to Breakfast Central. It's now time for breakfast. The front pages of the, I would say breakfast headlines. Yeah, and it's also headlines. The front pages of the newspaper. Yes, I was caught in many, many walls. And joining us this morning is Chief Coordinating Officer of Sustainable Stories, Mr. Uade Ayemia. One welcome to you and thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Olive.
Good morning.
To have you back.
Great to. Oh, thank you. Well, was I away? It doesn't feel like I was away.
Okay.
Well, that was a long time ago. That was like over a month ago. That was
it was last year.
No, I wasn't.
No, you took the day off.
Oh, I was unwell.
Yes,
okay, I was unwell.
Are you better now?
Oh, yes, I am. Okay. Thank you for
Winga,
asking.
Yeah. I hope you're not cutting knees when you were trying to talk about...
No, not at all.
Okay.
You're welcome. And happy Armed Forces Remembrance and
yes,
Celebration
let's celebrate
Day.
our gallant officers and wish them well every day. Those who are continually trying to defend our nation from terrorism and banditry. So God bless you all, and I wish you all the best for the rest of the year.
Yes, we appreciate the great work you do. But let's get straight into it. The first paper we will be looking at this morning is This Nigeria, and the headline says it's on a celebratory mode and celebratory note. Finally, FG ASUU seal deal, unveil new agreement. Lecturers get 40% rise in salary, emolument to boost morale, timeline unstated as deal isolates non-academic staff. That's why we had the president of SSANU this morning who was complaining that how do you have 4 children and then you only favor 1? And NASU, they're also threatening that they also need their own sides of the agreement to be fulfilled. TUC set for fresh showdown over Johesu salary structure. Still on the front page of This Nigeria, weak regulation, macroeconomic risk threatens bank recapitalization, experts warn. And FCT minister approves promotion of over 2,000 workers. EXCO warns land rent defaulters to pay up or face sanctions. And United States suspends visa processing for 75 countries, including Nigeria. I would like us to start with, since you're a money person and your background is economics and finance. Weak regulation, macroeconomic risk threatens bank recapitalization, experts warn. Why do we often go through this recapitalization process by the CBN? What's the point of it? And are there benefits? And what happens to banks that cannot meet up?
So why do we need them? You need to be sure that in terms of where big banks or banks that can handle large ticket transactions are, then you have that capitalization. Your capital base is
solid.
Yeah, aside from it being solid, is a good point to start, especially when it comes to looking at whether you want to handle transactions maybe like in hundreds of billions and so much. Because if you lose out on those kind of transactions, then the banks can collapse. So that's one. In terms of regulation, I haven't read the story in detail, but I don't think the regulations to a large extent are weak. The CBN has tried as much as possible to ensure that they've given them time.
International, just to come in here, international banks, the deadline is March 31st, 2026. International banks must reach 200 billion. National banks, 200 billion naira. Regional banks, 50 billion. And merchant banks, 50 billion. Non-interest banks, 20 billion.
So there's 500 billion, there's 200 billion, and it goes on like that. National banks are those who operate across the country. International banks are those who operate both in Nigeria and across the world. So where was I? So I think time has been given, and the structure in which the CBN has said capitalization is going to be this time, I think, in my own opinion, although some people have fought back against it, without your reserves, meaning that shareholders' funds doesn't count as it, meaning that you need to actually bring in fresh money, which for me makes sense, because that way.
So what happens to the banks that can't meet up?
Well, so if you don't meet up to the requirement, I don't know what the rules will be, or what the rules are standard are. You probably forfeit your banking license.
You'll be acquired.
Or you could be acquired. There could be mergers. So there are those who are planning mergers between now and March 31. There are those who feel that some of those banks might not be able to meet it. You could be acquired because where the areas of specialties are, you could tap into that.
But sorry to cut. I know we're talking about money, and it's very important we respect and pay attention to money, as we have to go pay some bills if we want to collect 14th, 15th, and 16th month in 2026. We'll go on a quick break, and when we return, we'll continue our conversation. Please stay with us. To help us go through the newspaper front pages with analysis. We just finished our talk on bank recapitalization.
But before we go ahead, excuse me, let's also mention to our audience that this is the point where we open the phone lines. The numbers to call on your TV screen. We'll take a few calls today, and then we'll take comments from YouTube as well. Feel free to drop your comment in the chat box on YouTube. Let's now take more stories on the front pages.
Yes, and the big story, the good news. I mean, with a pinch of salt, because earlier today, like I said, we had the president of SSANU, so it's not yet Uhuru. But finally, ASUU sealed deal on very new agreements. Lecturers get a 40% rise in salary and emolument to boost their morale. And
that's Benga's favorite word. Emolument.
There's a difference between wages, salaries, and emolument.
What's the difference?
Wages is when you're being paid cash.
What you do.
Yes, it's called wages.
Salaries?
Like the wages of sin is debt. Salaries goes to your bank account. Emolument, that one I have to research it. I would defer to my learned friend here to tell us what emolument means. Because on a serious note, what does this mean for university education in Nigeria? And then the other, because I mean, it takes the triumvirate of ASUU, SSANU, and NASU to run to proper university administration, because you can't just have the lecturers, you also have the admin staff, you have other people that do other things in this ivory towers. But you've answered the call of ASUU. The other guys are saying, well, congratulations, but hey, we are here.
It feels like even that signing was what triggered them to be like, hey, you settled ASUU, you don't want to settle us. We'll show you people.
And the president of ASUU, of NASU rather, he said in 2009 they had a 27 point agenda, that out of that 27 they've only fulfilled 2, so that's mass failure. That's like 98%. And how do we move on from here? What do you make of this news?
Well, so good news to the lecturers who will get 40% increase.
That's massive.
Well, I don't know how massive that is, depending on how much they earn now. However, I think, this is my opinion, and I know people will chop me raw for this, but I think university autonomy is long overdue. And what do I mean by that? Universities should be able to be autonomous to raise the kind of funds that they require to run the university system. And why do I say that? Because, you know, education, especially when it comes to tertiary education, and for at least the three of us sitting here, we know how expensive it can be. We've seen Nigerians, not just Nigerians, across Africa leave their countries and go abroad and pay so much money for doing a master's for 1 year. But nobody wants to pay. And mostly Nigeria, because in Ghana, I think they do pay some commensurate amount of money in terms of fees. Because even when
international students have to take the burden, yeah.
Well, international students all over the world take the burden. But it doesn't mean that the local students don't pay what the country feels is commensurate. Like I say, I'm fortunate to have gone through education, all my education in Nigeria. And of course, we did pay school fees. And at that point in time, in my own opinion, I think it might have been a bit lower because there was subsidy and there was monies in the system. However, we've gotten to a point whereby I think tertiary education fees should actually go up.
Oh, that's why you said a lot of people.
Yes, they should go up.
Benefiting from after using the land.
So you know, I did this analogy in the 70s when government, not as many people in universities, not as many universities. Naira was 60 kobo to $1. In the 80s, it had gone to about 4 naira. By the 90s, it was already hitting 40 naira, and then you just continue. But university fees really haven't gone up in commensurate amount. Now, all over the world, local students pay maybe about a fifth of what international students pay. And if you have children that school in America, Canada, you pay at least $4,000 to $5,000 every year for education. And I'm not telling us to pay $4,000 to $5,000 every year, but let's pay an amount that we think is reasonable.
How much difference
what will
before we go?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because we have to go. We're trying to squeeze in.
And also the student loan.
Yeah.
How much difference
and then it gives you a good opportunity to actually now say, oh, this student loan can work better. Why? Because at the end of the day, even in all these countries where you talk about these things, they have loans, they have grants. And when the students come out and they get jobs, they start to pay. Now, when you don't do, if how do you fund universities? Research, which is a huge part of where funding comes to universities, both internally and externally. How do you get those things to be done? And that's why you've seen the level of research in Nigeria drop so much. So, yes, in my own opinion, I think when you look at the fees that are paid by private universities, depending on the cost, between 2 million and 4 million, I think is the right amount to pay. I think it is the right amount to pay.
All right.
And that's my opinion.
All right. We'll come back to continue with the review of the front pages of the newspaper. But let's now head to Morocco, where our correspondent, Udoka Ojoku, is live, and he brings us updates from AFCON. Udoka was there. Udoka, I know that yesterday was a bit of a heartbreak, but we've seen the Nigerian government extend their applause to the Super Eagles, saying that they're proud of the boys and that they knew that they gave their best, even though it didn't turn out the way that we expected. What is the mood like for Nigerians in Morocco?
The mood here is satisfied with the performance of the players. We're also happy with how they were able to hold Morocco, the Atlas Lions of Morocco, for 120 minutes. Yes, I know we didn't have a lot of shots on target, we didn't create a lot of chances, but we were able to hold the host nation up until penalties amidst the chaotic fans that we saw at the stadium. The stadium was packed full. It was unbearable, but these players are professionals and they stayed strong all through. But the only two mishaps that happened yesterday was the officiating, and then Samuel Chukwueze, who was brought in quotes, as a super sub, a super penalty taker to help Nigeria, but he decided to dash Bono that penalty, which he easily saved, and of course helped Morocco to lead themselves to the finals of the tournament. So nobody's really blaming the Super Eagles for anything, but of course the mood right now is that we move on. we are satisfied with what we saw yesterday, and we'll look forward to the third place against Egypt. And hopefully, Shell's contract might be extended because a lot of fans are satisfied with what he has done with the Super Eagles so far. We have not lost a single game in 90 minutes since this tournament started, and we are hoping that it ends with a bronze medal, which a lot of fans have tagged as the golden bronze for Nigeria.
Now, Udoka, you did mention officiating. What aspect of the officiating are you not satisfied with? Because a cross-section of Nigerians have already reported, they've mass reported the Instagram page of the Ghanaian referee.
We cannot say that for certain. We do not know if it is Nigerian fans that did the reporting.
But he has lost his Instagram, by the way, and they weren't happy with his officiating. What aspects were you referring to in particular?
So that's the angle I would not even like for us to go through, where we get to throw a referee for his attitude on the football pitch and causing him some harm or losing something important to him. I think the best we can do is report whatever it is to CAF. Then if CAF cannot take it up from there, then so be it. We knew this referee was going to take charge of the game. We knew a Ghanaian referee and a South African referee was going to take charge of this game. Why did the NFF not appeal? Why was there no protest? This happened in the game between Nigeria and Algeria. There was a protest. The referee was changed. It happened in Egypt's game. I can't remember which particular one now, but it happened in Egypt's game. But of course, that referee was changed. When we are busy battling the Jollof battle, and we decided not to protest this, and it has happened, and we are beginning to complain about the referee's officiating and all of that. But yes, there were some questionable calls that he made. For example, Calvin Bassey's yellow card was an unnecessary one. It was in nowhere in the rule book that Calvin Bassey deserved the yellow card in that game because it was obvious his shirt was pulled. There were a lot of fouls on Nigeria, but there was no yellow card on the Moroccan players. So it was just a topsy-turvy affair, and the referee should ask himself some questions. It was really, really questionable. A lot of calls that he made yesterday, quite questionable calls. Even balls that didn't go out for throw-ins, and it was advantage Nigeria. He decided to turn over and say, look, it is a throw-in to Morocco. So a lot of questionable calls that we could see in that one. If I was Jose Mourinho, I'm sure he would have been keeping tabs with the minutes that all of these questionable calls came.
Also quickly address what's happening in Chukwueze's comment section. And there's been a lot of trolling. There are people who have gone there to say very unkind things.
It's now bullying. It's not even trolling.
Yes, it's borderline bullying. So can we please address that before we wrap up this conversation?
Yeah, for Samuel Chukwueze, I mean, when the players came out during at the mix zone, a lot of them were quite remorse. For Chukwueze, there was something he did which I found quite unprofessional. You lost the penalty. You caused the country the chance to qualify for a final of the Africa Cup of Nations to win our fourth title. And he was busy winking at journalists. He was winking at them and smiling like he did nothing wrong.
Wow.
Right. So I'm not going to say he deserves the kind of comments he's getting in his comment section. That is totally uncalled for. But we should just leave this to let justice be served from his state of mind. If he truly believes that he did us wrong, maybe in the third place, if he gets a chance to play, he should prove himself worthy to be loved again and supported by the Super Eagles of Nigeria. If not, maybe he should kiss the national team goodbye. Okay. All of those comments in his sections were quite uncalled for.
Now, finally, Udoka, before we let you go, I believe you're still reaching us from Rabat. Where will the third place game be played? And do you think, going by Eric Chell's mentality and the spirit in the camp, would they approach it with all seriousness? Would it really be competitive? Because, like you said, it's the golden bronze, and everybody cares about the winner Sunday.
Right, of course, for the third place match. Now, this is where Nigerian journalists here are not finding it funny because a lot of us would have to travel to Casablanca for that third place match and then come back to Rabat for the final. And then after the final, majority of journalists here would have to travel back to Casablanca to travel from there to Lagos. and Abuja and the likes, wherever they are going to do. So the third place match will be happening in Casablanca on Saturday.
Thank you so much, Udoka and Joku. We wish you all the best. And I must say that smoke is not coming out of your mouth today. Perhaps you are in the desert region. Thank you so much. We look forward. You've been fantastic throughout the AFCON, and we look forward to reconnecting in
come back home and
Lagos, where you come
nice
back. And please, can you
banga.
help Olive and I bring some chocolate and also starch and banga from Morocco?
Starch and banga from Morocco.
I'll be looking forward to it.
Yeah, from the African restaurant.
No, we will host him with starch and banga.
Okay, and I hope smoke will come out of your mouth in Casablanca.
All right, Udoka, bye. Benga is getting a little excited. No, we should be the one hosting him, Benga.
Yeah.
But let's get your thoughts on the match as well.
Okay,
It's one of the stories on the front page. If you look at the Punch newspaper.
And so I hear what he said about Chukwueze. And if you are someone who follows football or is an ardent football follower or a player, you find out that maybe 6 or 7 out of 10 times, players that you bring in just before the end of the game, they've not even warmed up or anything for penalty shootouts.
Yeah.
They miss the penalties.
Benga, what did I say?
So that's that. That's one. Then two, when everybody, yes, there were some questionable decisions by the referee. But yes, the yellow card, I don't think it was a yellow card. However, the Moroccans were the better side on the night. They outplayed us in the midfield. They won most of the 50, not statistically. I watched this game. Most of the 50-50 balls, they got it. So what they did was they crowded us out of the midfield. Or some people say, oh, because they didn't play. No, because that was a strategy and they had seen the Nigerians play. The Nigerians always had the midfield through moving. And yes, they were still mobile, but every time someone like Wobi had the ball, at least 2 Moroccans were going to high pressing. So let's be honest with it. The Moroccans were, in my own opinion, that we got to the 120. So for the 120 minutes, they had 5 shots at goal on target, 5. Danwabali had, I'm talking about 3 that he saved, and if he didn't save it, they were goals.
So you don't think Ndidi not being part of the team was a factor?
Who?
Ndidi.
In my own opinion, even if Ndidi had played, it wouldn't have affected it.
Well, the coach already
that's
said
it.
The coach already
because the Moroccans were faster, they were more determined to the ball, they crowded us out, they high pressed us like we used to high press.
They had a 12th player.
And aside from the crowd, they knew the Moroccans played 5 midfielders.
So they came with a superior tactic.
Which is unlike how the Moroccans have played all through this competition, even when they played Cameroon. So let's give Chukwueze a break.
The better side.
Give Bruno. Bruno was probably one of our best defenders yesterday because he pocketed Raheem Diaz all through
Real Madrid.
Yes, and he had to be substituted. He made some of the most telling crosses, and also really Morocco won free and fair. Penalty shootouts are the lottery. Unfortunately, we missed 2. They also missed 1, and they scored 4. So.
And you know what? The government would not be so happy. Anyway, on the positive side, the government would have saved $100,000.
Exactly, because after what happened with the girls.
Well, I can't. You know, if I say this on live TV, people will hate me. But I would leave it. Maybe after the show, I'll tell you what I had said and I thought about it.
And now Nigerians have left football. They are
so we can come back to the realities of today.
And realities of our nation.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into the realities. Let's see the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. And I particularly want us to take the story on the top right corner of the paper. 2 more lawmakers withdraw support for impeachment. This is definitely
2 more after that first 2.
So it's now 4.
So it's now 4.
Out of
Wait, so is it 2 more?
Yes, now. They said 2 more.
2 more lawmakers, yes, that's true. So that's 2 plus 2, 4. What do you think is happening behind the scenes?
The politics is being played.
You think something is happening behind the scenes? Or it's not just out of their volition?
Out of their good heart.
Their good heart. And by the way, the government...
It could be out of their good heart, but politics is still being played.
This Thursday, today will make it 1 week since that impeachment notice has been served. But the communication from the government side is that they are yet to receive a CTC of they're only seeing it on the front page.
And so maybe they haven't submitted it to the
right address.
Well, maybe it hasn't come officially to the office of the governor.
That's another issue.
Yeah, so. But I do think there's a lot of politics going on behind. I think we spoke about this last week. You know, when we were talking about the Minister of Federal Capital Territory touring Abuja, touring River State, whether he didn't have work to do in Abuja. So everybody's playing their politics, and maybe this is something that he has to step back and decide how he wants to go going forward.
Well, it's very interesting to see how this has turned out, especially because I don't know if this is enough to weaken the influence that the FCT minister has on River State. That was his base, his political structure, and he had said that Fubara coming out for a second term would totally crumble his. That is
it will lead to
political
death.
Death, yes. I always, anytime I think about that, I always imagine him saying over my dead body.
And so those who are, you see, the other thing, I always laugh when everybody says, oh, the best politician I've seen in the last 25 years is the current president of Nigeria.
Yeah.
In terms of politics.
What did you hear me say?
Yes.
In terms of politics, he has always known how to bring people together, those who have who are disgruntled, he knows how to manage them and keep his peace. And I guess that's what he's doing in River State.
Okay. Let's take more stories. On the front page of the Punch we're looking at the Nigerian Tribune. On the front page, federal government ASUU unveil agreement to end prolonged university crisis. We've taken that as well. NGX confirmed listing of 3.156 billion UBA shares. NGC recommends Justice Omoyele for Supreme Court, 35 orders for judicial appointments. Clears Osun State CJ of alleged misconduct. Bone discovery could lead to exercise in appeal for osteoporosis. Why Kano's defection to APC is delayed? Now, there was a conversation about Governor Yusuf Abba defecting to the APC. Initially, we then saw the video of the NNPP, what's his name? The NNPP leader, the man who... Kwankwaso, thank you. Kwankwaso saying that people who defect, that if they defect, they will lose, they will not succeed, sort of. And now we then saw potential of him defecting to or aligning himself with whoever will be willing to give him the role of vice president or president. But we'll come into the details of Kano. Let's take a call. We have Uche
from Abia.
From Abia State. Good morning, Uche.
Hello, good morning, Uche.
Uche, are you there or are you gone?
Okay, we seem to have some connection issues with
all right.
Uche.
Hello, good morning.
All right, we can hear you now, Uche. Please go ahead. Good morning. Thanks for calling. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for having me. 2 lawmakers from River State have now changed their mind. 2 lawmakers, making it 4. By next week, you will hear 4 more lawmakers, have changed their mind too. The next thing you people will hear, Wike will go back to River State. Second missionary job. It will continue. Let me tell you, he who laughs last, laugh the best. They will laugh at Wike. God bless you people.
Thank you very much.
That's quite bold. He says he will laugh last, laughs best.
Yeah.
And they will laugh at Wike.
Oh, yes.
You
In my own
so?
opinion. Oh, yes. They've started laughing at him. They've been laughing at him for the last...
It's not about who laughs. They're laughing at him now, but are they going to have the last laugh?
Yeah,
He always feels like he has something up his sleeve.
Oh, no,
it's
no,
like
no,
an
no.
onion.
Oh, no.
The more you peel, the
so
more you realize
when
he
you are
has
playing,
others.
so it's like an onion. Are you with me? The person you are playing politics with is like an onion that makes your eyes pepper. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Okay. Since we're talking about food condiment, onions and garlic, maybe we should move on to another newspaper here because of the time we have left.
Let's
move
punch
to the
them
Punch.
with the Punch.
There's one big story here I'd really like us to look at. Beyond the United States visa shockwave, Trump order may delay 5,000 intending Nigerian immigrants. There's also federal government orders fintechs to remit VAT on service fees. So on the fees they charge,
yes,
the government will be charging the service providers, not directly to customers. They will be charging.
No.
What
so
does that mean?
so the commissions and all, they'll
pay VAT on the
they'll pay
commission.
VAT on their own commissions charge. It's standard.
Okay, that's great.
It's standard
so
practice.
This is what you call expanding the net. But let's take IK from Owerri.
Please turn down the volume of your TV set before you call in, as it's interrupting with the quality of the call. Thank you. All right, we'll have to disconnect that. Call us back, please.
The main story I want us to take is because it's a huge amount of money and people have been questioning it. Opposition knocks federal government over alleged $9 million US lobbying deal. And the details of that story says the African Democratic Congress, the People's Democratic Party, and the new Nigeria People's Party and Labour Party have criticized the Tinubu administration reports that the federal government approved $9 million contract for lobbying firms in the United States, describing it as an attempt to polish Nigeria's image abroad while citizens continue to grapple with rising insecurity and economic hardship. In a statement signed by the ADC Public Secretary, the ADC said the spending demonstrated misplaced priorities, stressing no amount of paid lobbying will cover for the bloodshed or the government's failure to safeguard lives and property. What do you make of this story? I mean,
well, and I agree with no amount of money spent by any government would, where there is a high level of insecurity, would change what is happening in the country. So if you were trying to, this is my opinion, if you were trying to, what's it called, polish your image, and you could see the facts on ground, insecurity have dropped significantly, terrorists and their sponsors have been arrested and tried, and so on and so forth, then you have that kind of evidence. But let's also remember that, you know, the government itself will also tell you that they have hard facts and hard evidence and data, which for security purposes they might not be able to share it with Nigerians, but they can share it with the US authority because they want to also assist us in fighting insecurity so that they can know how far they've gone. But standard anywhere in the world, when you're lobbying, you don't go there. It's not just your external affairs minister or your external affairs team or the ambassador. You get those lobbyists. And of course, they charge money. And that's standard in America. 9 million, I don't know whether that's the right amount or not. But the fact remains that if you're not doing the right things at home.
Well, how about you spending that money on critical weapons and materials and things you need to do to deal with insecurity?
Yeah, for you.
Why do you have to paint a certain image to
No.
foreign government?
So, what kind of image? So, let's always be careful. Do you understand? And
no, because lobbying implies that you want to paint a particular picture. Public relations.
Not necessarily. I want to share my own about what is happening.
And I need to pay $9 million to do
Oh, yeah, because to get to some places, you need to get those people to get you into those rooms. Are you with me? They've been able to get into the room with the Americans, and the Americans have said, oh, they would support you in fighting insecurity. That's one part. But you also have to share those things across board. And so it's not just the president or one senator or one rep member. It's across constituents, even Nigerians who are members of those constituents. I'm not telling you that it's right or wrong or the amount is justified. Right. What I'm saying is these things, a number of these things are done this way. Are you with me? How much it is, I don't know. And I can't tell you for sure. But for you to be able to get some particular kind of information across board, of course you need these people. It's the same way you need people in Nigeria, whether they are PR agents that would help you push the data that you can't share to the public, are you with me, in a systematic way so that those who are meant to see it will see it and believe that things are going on. So okay. I'll leave it at that.
There's a story I'm seeing here. 33-year-old dispatch rider Yahaya Nuru was on Wednesday convicted and sentenced to a total of 7 years imprisonment by the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos for the unlawful distribution of large quantities of tramadol and other prohibited drugs. It's on the front page of the Punch, bottom corner of the paper. Lagos dispatch rider back 7-year jail term for trafficking tramadol.
Well, so I'm glad that that went through. Mm-hmm. However, to get tramadol is just go to nearest.
So that's my concern.
So the thing for me is, what is the government, that's Lagos State, doing, and the healthcare system doing to eradicate all this kind of sale of even Panadol at the nearest.
So for me, it's like
Over
they
the
have become
counter,
very
yeah.
creative, right? They've become creative. They've gotten to the point of using bikes. They're using, you see a dispatch, and I think it's a normal dispatch that is going to deliver food.
Well,
and it's going to traffic drugs. It's moving drugs about.
Yeah, so let's remember one thing. Is when you want your business to grow, you grow with the times. And that's the reality. So if your own system as a government is not high level enough to check those things,
right,
then who are you to blame? It's like saying that the Colombians who fly drugs from Colombia into Mexico and then run them through tunnels. They're trying to run a business. It's illegal.
And try to beat the system.
Exactly.
So we now have to think of creative ways to get ahead of them.
And that's it.
And we
and
have
that's
a
what the
serious
system should do.
Drug problem in Nigeria.
I know you remember the documentary, the BBC documentary on tramadol.
And some of them are actually prescription drugs that should be over the. Like they should never be over the counter. On counter drugs. They should be strictly on prescription.
Okay, a few comments.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Another sad one here. NPAN, Nigerian Guild of Editors, Newswatch co-founder Yakubu Muhammad.
Yes, I just got in the news at 9. Really sad.
He was
75.
Yeah.
And this is happening after the co-founder, Dan Agbese, died a few months ago. Very, very sad. And he had a book launch, I believe it was in November or December, sometime in the last quarter.
Well, they contributed so much to the media, yes. and may he so rest in peace. And for me, the last thing is, thank you for what you've done in terms of reporting and media coverage in Nigeria, because it set Newswatch actually set the pace for a number of news magazines, and today what you find as online media, which you can call news magazines.
Okay, Mokuye Chukwuemeka, reacting to what we're talking about regarding Nigeria and Morocco, says, one Twitter user documented the different times the referee messed up the game. They were too much to mention. We didn't play our usual game, honestly, but the referee didn't do a good job. Sad day for us at the AFCON. The referee did his job as the 12th man, Mokuye says. Thank you so much to those who've joined us virtually during our comments. Thank you to our callers who have called. Those who planned to call and didn't call, thank you as well. Our guests who have joined us, thank you to.
And there's AFCON next year. Who says we can't do better than next year in Tanzania, Kenya, and Uganda?
Let's qualify first.
No, of course, it's AFCON. It's our bet.
Okay, we have to go out of the studio. We'll be back again
next year.
Tomorrow to bring the final edition of Breakfast Central this week. Don't forget, Jasiri comes up next, so please stay tuned. I am Olive Emodi.
And I'm Benga Borough on behalf of Joe Hansen and the entire team. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.